What's up, hardheads, and welcome back to the Hardcover Hooligans podcast. My name is McIntyre. As always, with me here is Danilo. And Danilo, I got a question for you.
Ooh, what is it?
What is happening?
Well, men are there, and then wars happen, and then that's what's happening.
Yes. The Dagor Bralach and the other one.
The Dagor other thing.
Yes. Anyway, you know what it is. We know what it is. We are continuing in our quest, much like the characters within the book, to finish reading and learning and loving the Silmarillion.
So you would say that this podcast is like a Silmaril in our lives that we will fight over and ultimately lead to our doom?
Sometimes this podcast has felt like cursed jewels within my iron crown. Yeah.
Maybe we should talk about that. I don't know. Or just, let's not.
No, let's not talk about it. No, we kid. I kid, of course. But I don't kid about the Silmarillion. Something I take incredibly seriously.
These episodes, folks, are not going to be funny. They are going to be serious.
There's no jokes. They're serious. You're essentially in an English class, and it's going to be boring as hell. And there will be a quiz.
Lord of the Rings was funny and fun, but once we start talking about Silmarils,
then it's real. This is real to me.
This is real life. This happened. I did some research on last time we were talking about Tol Eressëa.
Oh yeah.
Because I think part of this whole thing is this is the prehistory of like our world, right? Isn't it some weird?
It is.
And so apparently Tol Eressëa is what Great Britain is now.
Oh, well there you go.
Humans' blood got so diluted they physically weren't able to see elves anymore, and that's why we don't see elves anymore.
Damn it. God damn it. If only there were a way, another elf showed up and we could reforge the line, Baron and Luthien style.
Yeah, we need to have a large-scale breeding program of people who see elves, and then finally...
this is good. So the last time we talked about this, we talked about the shortest chapter in the book, which is of men, and that, they just show up. Is there anything up top that you feel we need to recap? Because I understand for the listener, it's... they can re-listen to it, but for us, it has been a while.
Yeah,
since
we can't listen. We can't re-listen to the episodes, and we won't. So,
but I just anything up top before we dive into this discussion that you feel you need a refresher on, or maybe that we should recap.
I mean, when I was refreshing on this, sort of last we left, Morgoth and Ungoliant have killed the two trees and fled to Middle Earth. The Noldor have followed them, swearing an oath of vengeance, and the Valar tried to heal the trees, but they got one leaf and one fruit instead, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with these?" And they make the sun and the moon, and because of that, I think it's just funny that it's sort of dark in Middle Earth, and then one day it's just really bright all the time. And Morgoth's like, I can't go out as much, so it's gonna just be a little more chill around here for a bit.
I mean that's the big stuff. And to look forward, we're going to talk about werewolves. We're going to talk about vampires, and we're even going to talk about dragon. Sauron is a big. Well, not big, but he's at least in this. He has lines. He has more lines in this than he does in the Lord of the Rings.
That's true.
All right, so let's jump in. So, all right, here we go. Now, if you remember, there was a sundering, a second sundering of the elves, if you will, when Feanor...
a little bit of kinslaying as well.
A little bit. The kinslaying, the abandoning of your brothers on the ice float.
Make them walk on ice.
So... Feanor, as we've left him, he's really mad at Morgoth, and his quest leads him to something called the Battle Under the Stars, because they settle or whatever, and all the Balrogs keep attacking them and whatever, and Feanor's like, all right, I'm sick of this, and so he goes,
because they go right to the gates of
they go right there, right? They have one mission, and it's to go there, and they do, and Feanor, unfortunately, he dies. It's funny, that we didn't... I guess with the power of foresight, we probably should have ended the last episode with that he dies, but he dies.
Yeah, there is a cool showdown with Morgoth. Fëanor is not the one who gets to do it. He gets wounded in battle and then dies after the battle. And Morgoth
we meet an
is
arguably cooler elf. I mean, but learn more about an arguably cooler elf than Fëanor, Fingolfin.
But Fëanor, before he died, tasked his sons undying revenge until they get the Silmarils back, which works out really well for all the elves and all of Middle-earth.
So he's got a bunch of... Let me just... listener, I don't know if you can hear, but my notes here... my beautiful handwritten
Mac
notes...
does have a bunch of... ripped out of a notebook. Are they college ruled or are they wide ruled?
No, they're college ruled.
Okay, they're college ruled. Handwritten notes with the little frilly things still on the edges, so we know they're accurate because of this.
There's just some important... We're going to dive into names again, okay? Because we got to refresh these names. Because I'm not really ever sure... It wasn't really important that Fëanor had kids, and then suddenly it's so important. So just to go over Fëanor's children, we don't need to go over all of them. But there's like... three that are important. Maedhros, who is the oldest one, and he's like the new king of the Noldor after Fëanor dies for like 20 pages. Like, he's not the king for a long time. He gives it to Fingolfin, but he's there. He's one of the sons that sees Fëanor die, and then the other two who are also there, I mean, there's more than two of them that are there, but the other two that are important are, oh god, where the hell is it? Oh, Celegorm and Curufin. They're like the bad boys. They're the bad boys of Fëanor's kids. They love this death pact, and it will come back later in a big way.
Big fans of the death pact.
But Maedhros isn't really too sure about it. But he's like, all right, I guess we'll keep battling. And then in
classic oldest sibling fashion, he's like, oh, I don't know, but okay.
And he gets Fëanor dies, and then Morgoth shows up, and he's like, "Hey, so you actually beat me. Like, I think we can have a talk about this." And then Maedhros is like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And then he gets captured. Obviously, he gets captured, and he gets hung up on the outside of the fortress, which is fucked up.
On Thangorodrim, the mountain. Yeah. And I believe the history of the mountain is, so Angband is like the fortress, and then one day Morgoth said, "I need a big mountain." And he made it and called it Thangorodrim, and that is why there's a big mountain called Thangorodrim.
There's cool people and they name cool things, cool shit, you know? That's all this is.
But yeah, he gets hung there by like one arm. Very Prometheus of him.
Yeah, yes it is. Okay, cut to Fingolfin shows up. Fingolfin, you'll remember him. He's very important because
Fëanor's brother.
Half brother, but yes,
right.
Because he's like, he drew the sword on him, and that's the guy. That's Fingolfin is the guy that Fëanor was beefing with, and he's also got abandoned.
Yeah, and they all sort of decide not to say anything to any of the other elves about the kinslaying.
Right. They learn of it and like then get mad, but they don't say it themselves.
Because they're like, well, if we tell them that these other guys tried to kinslay us and did, then maybe they might think we're not great. So we're just going to keep that to ourselves. And because later Galadriel's really cagey about it. She's like, some bad things happen.
Yeah,
and then it goes into no detail.
Fingolfin tries to attack Angband also, but they're like, oh my god, I think it's this. Nobody trusts anybody because Morgoth is constantly like getting into people's heads, and there's like a scene later where there's like a character who's like, hey, I don't think we should do this. I think we should betray the elves. And then they're like, yeah, you're right. And then that guy like shows up again, and he's like, I didn't say that. And then they're like, oh my god, damn it, we've been had. So like this big force can't attack Angband, and they're like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. And so Fingon, he's Fingolfin's son, and him and Maedhros used to be tight before, the whole the big murder that happened. He's like, oh, I know how to heal the divide, because now everybody's on the same continent. It's a little sketchy, people are
and they're all sort of on the same side, but they remember that they didn't get along very well, but they're like, hey, Morgoth's here. I guess we all got here. We can pretend to get along.
But in order to really fix everything, Fingon's like, I'm going to go save my cousin myself. And so he does, but just barely. Like, he can't at first. And then there's this I think it's a really cool scene where Maedhros is like begging him to just kill him with his bow. And then, and I hope you get used to this, they're like, how are they going to get out of this? And then the eagles show up, and then that's how they get out of it.
Well, Fingon cuts Maedhros' arm off, which is not the last time someone gets their arm chopped off. But it is like, Fingon is like looking for him, and then he like is sad and starts, and then like Maedhros like starts singing, and then he like hears it, and like
that's
it's very
right.
kind of a beautiful rescue.
It's cool.
Yeah,
it's also
really
not the
cool.
first time somebody who needs to be rescued and can't get found just starts singing, and then the other person starts singing too, and they find each other.
I think Tolkien's a hack.
Yeah, he's a hack. Yeah, this is all terrible. They get back, and Maedhros heals his hand because he's a magic elf, whatever. And Maedhros this is the first, like, he gets to talk to Fingolfin, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'll show you how sorry I am because you can be the king of the Noldor now." And that's how Fingolfin becomes the High King of the Noldor. Dagor Aglareb is the other name, the glorious battle. Because this is what this is leading to. So everybody moved, they're hanging out together. King Thingol, remember from earlier, he was hanging out in the glade for so long, they gave him a different name.
Yep.
He's like, I don't like that all these guys are hanging out. And then Melian is like, well, should I maybe let everybody in? And he's like, no, we'll still be secret and not want to hang out. And so they have a big festival, and all the elves are at the festival. King Thingol, he learns of the kinslaying because sorry, is that later? Hang on. Oh my god.
I think
because he does learn about it, because he kicks them all out.
Yeah, I don't remember how he learned about it.
Yeah, that happens later. That's because that's when they leave to go found their own like city states. Oh my god, there's so much going on. Anyway, okay, the elves all whatever. I'm just gonna summarize like this: the elves all hang out and everything's good. 20 years go by, Morgoth's like, I'm gonna try this again. And since the elves have all been hanging out and like everything's cool, the battle takes like 15 minutes. And it's over, and it's called the Glorious Battle. And then for 400 years, they just like beat the shit out of Angband and the orcs.
It's called the Siege of Angband.
Yeah, and it goes on for 400 years.
They're chilling out, and Morgoth can't come out because there's a son now. Also,
right. This is going on. Turgon, one of the Fingolfin's son, is like, I don't really know about this. This is sort of weird. And previously, Ulmo, one of the gods, was like, hey, you want to check out this cool place? And
it's like almost like the Poseidon, right?
Yeah. And almost like, check out this sweet place. Wouldn't it be sweet if you built a cool town here? And he's like, I think you're right. And then, so he does. He makes Gondolin, which, we've heard before. And
the hidden city of Gondolin.
The hidden city of Gondolin, which gets brought up. And but he doesn't let anybody in there.
And then if you do get in, you can't leave. And this becomes a problem for several people in the future.
Yeah.
Now, if it seems like we're jumping all over the place, it's because the book also jumps all over the place.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's like a chapter after this is just like, oh, I guess we'll go back and tell you what this place looks like, even, and it's like, okay.
So we're going more based off of book order stuff.
So this is Galadriel. She's in Doriath, and which is like the secret, not the other secret place, but the one that the magical force field is around. She's like, oh my god, some crazy stuff happened. And Melian's like, can you tell me? And she's like, oh my god, it was so crazy, right? It was so crazy.
And Melian's like, do you have an example? He's like, oh, I'm just so sad about it. And she does not say anything.
And Thingol, this is where Thingol starts to, he's like already wary of them, but he's getting more wary. And then Morgoth starts, Morgoth tells the elves, he's like, they did the kinslaying. And then Círdan the shipwright goes, and he's like, hey, Thingol, did you hear about this? And Thingol's like, oh my god. And then he kicks them all out. He kicks out the sons of Finarfin, but he's not going to shut his doors against them. And he'll let the people of Finarfin come in because they paid the price by, like, he's mad at Feanor's kids. He's
because they're the ones who
they're the ones who did it.
Yeah.
But they can't speak the language in their borders anymore, which is sad.
the high elven,
yeah,
right?
Quenya. This is also where Finrod, hang on, hold on. Hold.
Shuffle.
Son of Finarfin. He's like, I am going to say something really ominous. And he like makes an oath that he must be free to fulfill an oath. He doesn't know what it is, but he's like, I can't get married. And they're like, why? And he's like, because at some point I'm going to need to fulfill a crazy oath. And they're like, okay, buddy, whatever. And then the story.
I think it's funny that in the middle of all these crazy politics and battles and stuff, there's randomly people who are like, "Oh, I gotta do this thing." And
yeah, it happens all the time.
everyone think about it. And everyone's like, "Okay,
we're thinking about it.
You do what you gotta do in a couple hundred years, I guess. Thanks for letting us know."
So there's like this moment where he's like, I never will get married because I used to love this woman and she didn't come with me to the Middle Earth. And it's like, oh, that's sad.
Everyone's like, that is the 30th most important thing we're all dealing with.
Right, so, yeah, I know. There's a lot going on. I don't care about your ex-girlfriend. All right, but here we meet a character. Now, again, if we were talking about the fall of Gondolin, it'd probably be more important to bring up Maeglin right now. However, we're not doing it in that order, damn it. We're doing it in the order that the book gives the chapters in, and we don't have all day to record the fucking podcast, so we're talking about Maeglin right now.
Now, who is Maeglin?
Okay, he's a creep, but he's not. He's like a handsome creep, but he's also like, he wants to have sex with his sister? Like, I don't know, there's something. This guy's messed up.
He's an incel whose only redeeming quality is he's not as much of an incel as his father.
Oh yeah, that's true. Compared to Eol, he's a normal guy. So Maeglin, okay, I guess it starts with Aerodel. She's Fingolfin's daughter.
Yep.
She's like, I want to leave, and Turgon, who's Fingolfin's son, is like, you don't get to leave, and she's like, shut the fuck up, and then she leaves
because the whole thing with Gondolin, the hidden city, is like, if you come here, you know how to get here, so you can't leave, so that no one knows how to get here.
Right. But she leaves and she gets lost, but she ends up meeting this creep named Eol, who like, he's like the capital D, capital D, capital E, the dark elf, like in the book. He like tricked her into this magic forest into marrying him and like staying with him, and they have a son together whose name is Maeglin.
Yep.
And she is like, okay is a strong word, but is fine with being there and being with him, but she's like constantly talking about how sweet like Gondolin is.
Because I think she like she didn't want to be trapped there, but then when she left, she missed it.
Yeah, right.
And then I think Eol was sort of like, they're just trying to control you. Like, and he has a point. So like, he's not just like an evil creep. He's just kind of a normal creep.
But Maeglin really wants to go visit too, and Eol, he goes to like a business meeting or whatever, and they're like, now's the time to leave, so that they go and they leave.
Yeah, because Eol didn't want to go. He's like, why would you go back to the place that trapped you? And so
because they also hate, like, all the elves hate this guy so much, so he doesn't think like he can just roll in and they'll be like, hey, what's up, Eol?
Yeah,
like,
and Eol
they're
hates
gonna kill
all the Noldor because they're different, and also they did bad stuff.
So they go back to Gondolin. He's like sneaking around. And Curufin, who we talked about earlier, he's like, Eol, you're such a creep. I'm so mad. I'm so mad at you.
Who's Curufin again?
He's fucking. Hang on, hold. He's one of the sons of Feanor.
Oh, okay, got it.
He's one of the douchebags, but he's not a douchebag yet. But he'll be a douchebag later.
Yeah.
He's also in the business of capturing women, so it's funny for him to be like, I can't believe you did this to this person, but when it's Luthien, no, we can capture as many women as we want. What a fucking asshole. Anyway, he's like, they have this scene where he's like, Eol's like, yeah, they just went on a little vacation. They said I was supposed to meet them here, and Curufin's like, okay, then why'd they leave already? And he's like, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because Eol follows them to Gondolin, and figures it out. Yeah.
I also looked it up. He was summering with the dwarves. Just throwing it out there. Just like he went to a feast with the dwarves. I wish I could
summer with the dwarves.
Yeah, because Maeglin and the dwarves get along. Which why? What do they have in common?
I think they both hate elves.
Oh, that's true. But they don't all hate this. You know, some dwarves and some elves get along.
I guess that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I guess for the most part.
But he had to be out. He couldn't be
That's true.
Be like
He'd have
getting
to
a
be
pack
out.
of cigarettes or whatever.
He could. They show up. When I say they, I mean Maeglin and Aradel.
Aradel, yeah.
They show up, and then they're like, "Hey, we found this creep out back," and they like bring in Eol, and he's like been captured, and they give Turgon. He gives him the lowdown. He's like, "All right, so here's the deal. If you leave, we have to kill you. But if you stay, you can just stay, and we can be fine." And when I say you leave, we'll have to kill you. It's not because we want to kill you. It's just because it's like a secret. We can't let people know what's going on. And he's like, "I choose that."
So mad.
Yeah.
Which, I guess in retrospect, I would also be kind of mad, but also I wouldn't blame anyone.
Yeah, he just opens his coat and he has a big spear, and then he's like, "Huh?" And then he throws it, and then Aradel dives in front of Maeglin because he's gonna kill his son, and then she dives in front of the spear, and it seems like everything's fine, but then we find out the spear is poison. Oh, and Aradel dies.
Yep, and Eol gets thrown off a cliff or whatever. He gets executed.
Yeah, he does. He gets thrown off a cliff.
Maeglin
Not the first time. Well, we're not going to talk about it this time, but maybe Maeglin also gets thrown off a cliff later, but in the same city. But
does he also get his arm cut off? And
I don't know. I don't know. So this is where Maeglin starts to show he's like a weirdo. He's very quiet and.
Also, if that happened to your parents, you'd probably be a little weird for a bit too, I'd say.
Yeah, because they both die right in front of him, and he loves this girl who he's related to, and they don't. To be fair to Maeglin, he didn't grow up with this girl, so he's not instantly "Oh, that's my hot sister." He's like, "Who's this hot elf?" And they're like, "That's your sister." And he's like, "Ah, but she's so hot though. I don't understand."
But she's not my It's not like we were brother and sister,
Right. You're right.
It's like, well, yeah, but anyway.
But there's this funny moment where it's elves did, but just not that close. I guess you could have sex with your cousin. Wait, are they brother and sister? Is that right?
I don't know.
Or are they cousins?
Idril is her name, right?
Idril, yeah. It's a cousin. Okay, cousin. So they're cousins.
Well, that's fine. Never mind. It's fine.
But I guess you can it's like us. You can marry your second cousin or whatever, but not your.
That's like you and me. We can marry our second
right.
cousin.
It's like you and me, the boys, the fellas.
We all married our second cousins.
We all did. We're all in love with our cousins. But yeah, that's it for Maeglin. He shows up. He shows up in a big way later, but not that we'll talk about today.
Well, the whole point is the setup. The end of the chapter was and he may or may not have a hand in the betrayal of the location of Gondolin and the fall of Gondolin. And we're well, okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like the first evil thing that's happened in Gondolin. All right, here we go.
This is when men arrive. We went from they exist, and now they sort of start mingling with the elves.
Right. Do you want to talk about this part, Danilo?
I can talk about it a little bit. It's also a big chunk.
A cat has entered the room and is screaming at me. I have to.
All right,
I have to kill it. I'll be right back. Okay, I've been starving him as a way to create my own sort of thrall that I can kill an ancient wolf with, but it's not working, so I had to feed him.
You sort of created your room is basically like Gondolin. Anyone who leaves has
I have to kill it.
Everyone who comes in can't leave and if they leave, you kill them.
There's a ton of people just off screen. There's so many people just standing there. They're quiet and they're scared, but they're standing there.
All right, so this is when the human beings come into the story.
They do,
and I guess it's cool because we're humans, but there's a lot of drama with the people and. It's not as cool as the drama with the elves. I don't know if it's how Tolkien writes about it, but after the grandiosity and drama of the elves, reading about the people is sort of what are y'all doing, guys? This is so boring. I don't know if that's just a me thing.
Well, I know what you mean. I'm not sure. I still think it's cool, but it is definitely. You're way aware that this stuff is happening now over the period of days and weeks and months as opposed to centuries. Right. It is instantly obvious that time is shorter. But I do think aside from the unfortunate thing that like when the everybody who is good is white, and then the first evil people are not white. It's like,
yeah, I know.
It's really unfortunate.
It was like the swarthy men from the East came, and you're like, ooh.
Oh my god.
And it's pretty, Lord of the Rings, like the trilogy, there's some little iffy things about like race and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But this, like, there's like a paragraph here where you're like, yeesh,
yeah,
yikes.
and I think he's like trying to defend it in like it's because the first people like met the elves and were like, it's like some human beings went across the mountains into Beleriand and met the elves for the first time, and then like became good and learned a lot about music and all this stuff.
Because the elves like knew more and taught them.
And then the
stuff.
people who went after did not get to meet the elves. Like at least in the same they met the human beings who had met the elves.
Yeah,
and
they
so,
didn't
like,
learn from the elves.
And so I get, but it's like that doesn't excuse that the first people.
And so they're brown,
first people
right?
are brown. It's not. It's so weird because I don't know what like this specific passage was written because, I mean, obviously it was written before the Lord of the Rings, but you know, there's that moment in the Two Towers where like Sam sees an Easterling and he's like, oh my god, but he's just like us, and why do we fall into this like circle of conflict? He's just probably a guy that got tricked. And I mean, it's still not great, but it's way better than this. So like, I'm stunned, especially because this book came out in the 70s. Like, I'm like,
right,
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's like the side effect of the Eurocentric fantasy. Like if your standard setting is like medieval Europe, then yeah, all the people are white, all the people to the south and the east are gonna be like brown and black, and the people in the north is gonna have icy barbarians. You know, that's just how it all sort of goes. And so I think that's probably where that comes from. Not that to like excuse it or anything.
No, absolutely not. But that's 1,000% where it comes from. And I think that like,
well, because no one's skin color is mentioned until it's the brown people from the east. You know?
Right. Yes.
Which is like, you know,
which then everybody's skin color is then mentioned. Like you never have to think about it, and then you're like, oh, they're all white. It's like, oh, I see what's going on. But even then, like in this, you know, they still trying to get around it or make it more palatable. It doesn't work, but it's like, no, they were tricked by Sauron. But I don't know, they weren't. Like, Sauron tricks them, or I guess not Sauron, wow. Morgoth tricks them, and then their reward, their reward is they get to just, like, rape and pillage a bunch of villages, and they're, like, cool with that. So, like, they are inherently evil. Then.
Yeah,
like,
it's weird.
I don't understand.
It's very, this was written by a man who was born in the 1800s. So, anyway, that's really the only part where, like, this sort of comes up, where it's, like, overtly bad racist, I've found. Since we've read
it is the only
Lord of the Rings
I think
and
of all
the Hobbit.
the Legendarium, it is just this detail, which is terrible, but, you know.
But anyway, that was a sort of a tangent. We were talking about people of men. So, like, the men were in the far east and started coming over the mountains into Beleriand. And some elves run into him. I believe the first elf is Finrod.
It sure is.
And he sort of starts talking with them and learns their language. And the first sort of leader of men, his name is Beor.
That's my dog right there, man. I love Beor.
And he is in charge of all the people, and sort of all the kings of men are descended from Beor. And Finrod sort of tells Beor and all the people he's with, like, sort of what the deal is with the elves. Like, we got a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of politics. If you just sort of stay separate. And, like, Thingol finds out about them and says none of them are allowed in Doriath.
Yeah, because he had a dream that it was bad.
Yeah. Not as, I would argue, not as bad as the things the elves have done to each other.
Anything that has already happened. Like, he at this point has learned about the kinslaying. And I mean, I guess his dream is like, he knows that maybe he can even foretell like what's going to happen to Numenor, but the elves also got tricked. Like, it's not just the men's fault. But I understand that that's not a fault with that is a character flaw. Like, that's not a plot hole, but it's a cool, I don't know. I love that the elves are, in this more so than the Lord of the Rings, like, deeply flawed. Like in the Lord of the Rings, they are perfect. I guess like Legolas is flawed, but
I saw a funny thing where it was like a meme where it was people who read Lord of the Rings when it says elves like the kindest and fairest of all creatures, and that says people who've read the Silmarillion, and it's like that puppet with like the eyes trying to avert his eyes.
Yeah,
and the top comment is like, because all the bad ones died in battle and kinslaying, so like only the good ones were left, and there's like 4 of them.
And even at that point, like the best elf is not even, he's half elven. He's fucking like, it's barely like the purest elves are the ones who are like the biggest dickheads, which I think is a funny thing that media has picked up on that isn't really like in Dungeons and Dragons or like in Skyrim, I think is especially a big touchstone for this, and obviously like countless fantasy novels that came after, but I think Skyrim, for people who are maybe listening to this podcast and like high elves being like murdering dickheads is like that's a funny trope that's like not in the Lord of the Rings at all, but is in this. But like 15 people have read this book, and right. But I just like that's the thing that elves like in like media, people are like, I fucking hate elves, they're fucking, and it's just like, I don't know, I just think that's silly.
Yeah, it is cool because it does like I think all the stuff in the Silmarillion is super cool to read about as like the backdrop for other elf stuff. And so like some elves make friends with some groups of men, and some, like Thingol don't let them come in, but then some make alliances, and all the elves are like, so there's this bad guy and his name's Morgoth. And all the men are let's fuck him up. We're going to fuck him up. Let's do it. Let's fucking do it. And so from now on, more or less, men are sort of aligned with the elves to try to destroy Morgoth.
And this is going on during the siege. So it's not as if like he's out and about fucking shit up.
There's
like
a
he's
big
trapped.
evil guy back behind those doors. Please trust us. Please trust us. He's come out before. He may come out again. We need your help.
This is also the first time they see somebody die of like not a stab wound.
Oh yeah, they like get sick, and all the humans like get sick and die, and
they're like weeping. Like the elves are like, oh my god,
what the fuck?
But I also like that that's why they're just so gung-ho to kill Morgoth, because they're like, well, we're only around for this long. I don't want the whole time to be hanging out with this creepy asshole.
Right. Yeah, so we've been standing here for 200 years and maybe a couple hundred years more, and the people are like, wait, this can't be all we do. It's like making friends with like a mouse or like a hamster, and then like after 2 years it dies, and you're like, what? You make friends with a hamster and you make it watch a door for its entire life. And then you're like, wait, I thought you were gonna be around longer. You're my friend.
I thought you see when we figure out what's going on behind that door.
I would have let you do other stuff if I knew you were gonna die so soon.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all that stuff. And now we move on to Of the Ruined of Beleriand and the Fall of Fingolfin. Mm-hmm. So this is the battle of the sudden flame Dagor Bragolach. And it's awesome. This is the battle that everybody like who has read this book is like they're like, it's the greatest battle in all of fiction. Like, people fucking love this. And
it's very
awesome.
cool.
It is very cool.
It's awesome, but it takes 2 pages.
Yeah, I know. It's not. Yeah. Okay, so this is what most of my notes here are about. So, Fingolfin, as we've talked about, High King of the Noldor, he knows what's going on in Angband, and he's like, if he breaks through that siege, we are all screwed, because like we're all doing that, and if somehow he manages to, I don't know, a big volcano explodes and they all die, like we are gonna be in deep shit. And they're like, no way, that's not gonna happen. And then a big volcano explodes and it kills all the elves. There's like this beautiful Argaled or whatever it's called, like this beautiful prairie that just gets covered in ash and volcano and goop of lava, is some people call it.
Yeah, hot rock goop, otherwise known as lava.
And so a bunch of Beleriand gets all fucked up.
And like Balrogs come out and shit.
Oh yeah. Glaurung shows up.
The OG dragon.
Yeah. Glaurung shows up. He actually showed up in the previous battle, but he's barely in it because Finrod like just pelts his ass full of arrows that he goes back in. But now he's back.
Because I think it was he wasn't fully grown yet.
Oh, is that real?
And I think he was smaller, and like Morgoth like had the idea of a dragon and started growing it, and then the battle started. And I think Morgoth was like, "No, you're too young." And Glaurung's like, "I don't care." And he went out there, and Theodore
cool.
like threw a bunch of rocks at him, and then flew back.
Because he shows up again, and like it's everybody. It's like he empties Angband. It's literally everybody.
This is the Marvel endgame of Angband.
It really is. The second one, the fifth battle, it happens again, but this one like they just. This is the one that they lose. I mean, not really, obviously, but things are not going well.
Yeah.
Fingolfin, okay. Angrod and Agnor are the other two sons of Feanor. They're,
of course.
Fingolfin is like, hey, I think we should do this battle. They both agree. There's like a lot of disagreement or whatever, but it doesn't matter because before anything can happen, the volcano explodes. Of all the sons of Feanor, Maedhros, our cool friend from earlier, is the only one who doesn't give up like his land and lose the battle in the area, because Maedhros chose, like, they all got to pick land, and Maedhros was like, I want to pick the closest habitable spot to Angband as possible. And they're like, okay, and then that's what he did, and he just like absolutely wrecks shit there because he's awesome. But you know, Celegorm and Curufin, they fail. Angrod and Agnor die. When Fingolfin learns that they're dead, he leaves, and he's like, I think I'm just going to go kill Morgoth myself. And so he rides up to the gates of Angband, and he challenges Morgoth. And like, there's a moment where Morgoth, like, the story is like, did Morgoth want to do this? No. But he didn't want to embarrass himself in front of his generals.
Yeah, exactly.
So he did. And he leaves, and then we finally get the answer. We read Return of the King. We've seen the movie. We're like, why do they care about Grond?
Now, I can't tell you how happy it made me to read this word. And yeah, Morgoth raises his big warhammer, and its name is Grond. And I literally,
It's my favorite character. Yeah, he's got a sweet warhammer.
I did do some research this morning. The battering ram from Return of the King is not literally the same
it is
hammer.
Different. Yeah,
it's just
unfortunately
named
different
after Morgoth's warhammer from the First Age. I wish it was the same thing.
Oh
my
god, having it be the same thing would be awesome. You know what? Morgoth's never in the movie. You know what? Fuck it. It is. That's what it looks like. That's how big Morgoth was. What are you gonna do? Sue me? They didn't once they make a Silmarillion movie, yeah, then you can tell me I was wrong.
Sue you.
Then please sue me. God, I want to do a lawsuit about the Silmarillion. He shows up. This is like, we don't often get described. It happened when he, you know. Like, because originally, if you remember, like, Morgoth was, like, a handsome guy, and then he got fucked up and is now, like, a beast.
Yeah, like, well, because he has the Silmarils, but also they, like, hurt and twist his head, but he still wants to wear them, so he does. So he sort of did it to himself. That's why he looks like an ugly monster.
Watch that was making you evil. Like, that's awesome, man.
Good for you.
Good for you. This is Fingolfin challenges Morgoth to a 1v1 team 1v1 deathmatch.
PvP.
Yeah, PvP zone. Fingolfin manages to wound Morgoth 7 times, but he is, you know, an elf and not an all-powerful god, and so obviously he loses. And Fingolfin is like getting crushed under the boot of Morgoth, and then Fingolfin cuts off Morgoth's leg, and he still dies. It feels like the weight of a mountain is on top of him, and that's how the book describes it. And then he dies. And then Morgoth is like, I'm gonna rip his body into so many pieces and feed it to the wolves, and then you'll never believe. I know you're probably sitting at home listening. You're like, how would they ever get out of this one? Well, the eagles show up and carry away his body, so he doesn't get ripped to shreds.
Lord of the Eagles scratches Morgoth's face, and they take Fingolfin's body and fly away.
Turgon builds a cairn over the body of Fingolfin. Fingon becomes the High King, and he sends... Now, this is big, not yet. Fingon sends his son to the Grey Havens, and his son, it's not his name now, but his name will be Gil-galad, and that is going to be super important because if you don't remember, he is the one, like the leader of the elves at the battle that killed Sauron with Isildur and all this stuff.
He was
him and Elrond were leading the charge.
Yeah, he was Elrond's buddy during that.
Which is pretty cool that I just like getting to see these young characters. It happens later too, like Celebrimbor gets mentioned. He's the one who made all the fucking rings, but it's just like he's just like, and Celebrimbor was there, and you don't, you're like, okay, who is that?
Yeah, so after Fingolfin died, it says, the orcs made no boast of that duel at the gate, neither do the elves sing of it, for their sorrow is too deep.
I just love the orcs make note. They're like, I mean, it was fine. Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, because Morgoth killed Fingolfin, but did get pretty embarrassed.
He did. He lost his leg and he got cut up 7 times. That's a main thing that happens. I mean, I guess Minas Tirith gets captured for the first time. I guess Minas Ithil is the other one, but Minas Tirith, the tower, gets captured and turned into the island of werewolves. That is literally what it is called. It's Tolkien Gawroth, but it means Isle of Werewolves.
And it's not the literal it's not literally Minas Tirith, because as maybe we've mentioned before, this whole continent gets flooded under the ocean later. It's the same name because it's the name in Sindarin or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, like High Tower or something.
Yeah, or like Tower of the Sun or something.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But who cares, because now it is the Island of Werewolves.
Also, and it's the first time you're like, werewolves?
Yeah, it's the first time, and if there's anything about Tolkien, this opens, shall we call them the werewolf floodgates? From now on, so up until now, no werewolves in the Silmarillion. After he creates a place called the Island of Werewolves, there's a lot of werewolves.
There's so many werewolves. And then I'm getting ahead of myself, but during Beren and Luthien, there's like a sentence where like Sauron turned into a vampire. It was like, what? There's vampires too. There's vampires and werewolves. Oh, that's awesome, man. Fuck yeah.
That must be a token, so like, funny. Saw Nosferatu in the theaters. Like, yeah, I need some of this. I need some of this in my notes. It's like we're writing it's like if we're writing a fantasy world and then we have to put like, and Wolverine was there. Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Let's put Wolverine in this.
Huh? Oh my god, that's so funny. And I know what you're thinking. You might be like, oh, it's probably not like the werewolves like that we know. No, it is.
It is. The full moon howling. Yeah. Scary.
Oh my god, it's awesome. And I love that they don't call them...
In his defense, they're not like Twilight werewolves. They're not buff men.
No. And I love that he doesn't say lycanthrope, he says werewolf. Like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That is what it is all about. There's if you've read this book before, you might be saying like, well, haven't you talked about Huor Halidin? And it's because we can't be here all day, okay? There's a bunch of men, but the important one you need to know is Brahir. He saves Finrod's life at the battle where Angrod and Angmund died. Brahir, son of Brahor, saves his life. Finrod's like, I'm going to give you this ring. And that is the ring that Aragorn gets, right? Has. Yep. Yes, it is. Brahir has this ring, and he's wearing it on his hand. I know that might seem like a weird thing to say. It's important. It's important, okay? We'll talk about it in a second. But anyway, they lose this battle pretty much. Brahir, they're, like, given dominion over this place, like, told to protect this forested area called Dorthonion. They fail, and they're, like, outlaws. I get that's what the book refers to them as, but, like
the human tribes are, like, outlaws now?
The ones living in Dorthonion, because, like, it's been overtaken by evil, so I guess, like, being a good guy in the evil land would make you an outlaw. It's just, like, a funny, it just, it brings to mind, for me, a cowboy, and that's obviously not what's happening, but...
Yeah, they're robbing the orcs and giving all the money to the poor or whatever.
They all get killed, all those men, except for one, whose name is Beren. I think that's everything that happens in the...
Yeah, there's a lot of... I think maybe this is the thing that bothers me about all the men and everything. Because as soon as men enter into all this history, there has to be a lot of men, like son of, in order to keep up with the elves. Because, like, it's just one elf king, but there has to be, like, 12 leaders of men if something's going to take, 150 years.
There's suddenly a lot more names to keep track of.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, each of them does one thing, and some of them do nothing, and...
Because that's all they can do, because they only live for 90 years. Like, they can't do all this crazy shit.
Because the elves are so used to being like, we'll just hang out here for 200 years and do what we gotta do.
Oh, yeah, I guess this is important. Turgon knows that, like, the battle is going on, but he still doesn't show, like, Gondolin's strength, and Morgoth is getting a little freaked out because, like, Turgon and Finrod escape, and he doesn't know. He has, like, zero clue where they are or what they're doing or what's going on.
Yeah, because
just like a detail
Turgon doesn't do anything in this battle, right? He's just like Gondolin staying on lockdown, right?
He, I think so. Yeah, because he doesn't leave, because he's like, if I can't leave. Like, he might get captured and give up the fucking place. He can't leave either.
Yep. Is this the last sentence of the chapter? This is one sentence. It says, "Therefore, none of the messengers of Turgon came into the west, and many were lost if you returned, but the doom of Gondolin drew nearer."
Yeah.
Just in case you need remembering that Hidden City does imply at some point it will not be hidden anymore, and that will probably be sad at that point.
All right. That's all for the battle, I think. And the next chapter, listen, if you don't really know anything about the Silmarillion, the thing that you probably do know is that at least the names, Beren and Luthien, they get mentioned in The Lord of the Rings a lot. There's like a separate book all about them. It's not nothing that's not in here. It's more like
it's like drafts of versions of the stories, because this was the first thing that existed, like Tolkien.
Yeah.
The first thing Tolkien wrote was the versions of this
It's on
story,
his gravestone,
which is a love
for crying
story,
out loud.
but, yeah, right.
It's a little bit.
Yeah, the whole story is written on his gravestone. It's crazy.
It's small. It's small.
Font's really small.
It's a little bit Orpheus and Eurydice. Eurydice, right? That's her name?
Yeah.
Orpheus and Eurydice. It's a little bit. Well, it's a lot of bit Aragorn and Arwen, because it's the same thing again. But
or is Aragorn and Arwen? Well, yeah. This thing,
Yes, that is what is going on. But it tells the story. Just a big summary up top about man and elf fall in love. Mm-hmm. We know that when that happens, elf becomes
bad stuff happens.
Mortal, or like elf will have to learn how to deal with like death. That will be very sad. Mm-hmm. But I think we should get into the hyper specifics of this, because this is fucking awesome. Like,
yeah, this is great. This is
unbelievable.
fantastic.
Like, it is one of the best stories I've ever read, and it's like not just like sitting there like in your head reading it. It's just like so captivating. Like, it's like perfectly written, and it's so obvious this is like pretty much the only thing that he had written and was done. Like like this was it.
And it's like 20 pages. It reads really well. The characters are great. There's like good action. It's got like a good shape, and I don't know, it's like it stands. It is shall we say, one of the Silmarils of the Silmarillion.
Wow. Actually, that's funny that you say that, because there are literally three. It's Turin Turambar, and it's the Fall of Numenor, or like the three that are like
top
good
things.
And all thought out. It's none of them. I guess this has to do with a Silmaril, but that's not really what it's about. But none of them are about the Silmarillions.
None of the other ones have a talking dog, so
no way. And none of the other ones have werewolves, vampires as chief enemies.
That's true.
All right, I have this all here. Beren. I might just read them. I might read off my bullet points, and then we can talk about them.
Great.
Beren, son of Brahir. He's the only survivor of the Dorthonian company, because he was like on a separate mission, which is like, that's classic stuff. He returns to camp. It's been destroyed.
Dead.
No,
and
my dad is dead. And he's sad, and he buries his dad. It's so sad.
And then wanders around the forest for forever because he's so sad.
His dad's arm is chopped off because it has the, had a ring on it. Remember I said he put the ring on his finger, it wasn't in his pocket.
Oh, that's right.
Got his arm chopped off.
I totally missed that.
The reason that company died was because this guy named Gorlim, he's like looking for his wife who got captured by Sauron, or so he thinks, and he goes into like, he's sneaking through this forest and he sees a cabin, and she's in there and she's singing in the cabin, and as he approaches, like the wind gushes, and it's like an old broke down cabin and there's nothing there, but Sauron like puts his hands on his shoulders and like captures him. It's like, oh shit, oh, it's so cool. And he says like, this is where Sauron gets a lot of lines here. He's like, hey, Gorlim, if you tell me, I'll give you anything you want. And I wonder if he hadn't asked for this one thing, if he would have lived. Like, because if he asked for like a bunch of money, or because what he asks for is to see his wife again. Now, this is classic. His wife is dead.
Yeah, this is a classic. I was reading this. I'm like, no way this has happened. This is where the trope comes from. Well, I think Tolkien took it from other fairy tales.
Well, yeah, for sure. But it's just like,
and also,
awesome.
This chapter is like a fairy tale. Like,
absolutely,
Sauron's the big evil witch with the cabin who tricks people, turns into a werewolf.
He's an evil wizard. He lives on an island of werewolves. Like, yes, it's like awesome. It's perfect.
Doing like riddles and wordplay to try to like trick people.
He's like, okay, all right, I'll bring you to your wife. And then he tells him like what's going on, and he's like, your wife is dead, and then like kills him.
So are you?
So that's how they all died. The orc captain, Baron, is like creeping around the woods. He's like hunting these orcs. He's like Rambo, First Blood style. He's
Orc Rambo.
He's hunting these orcs. And the orc captain, he's like, oh, I cut off his arm, I did, and look at his fancy ring. And then Baron just like pops out, and he cuts that dude's head off, and he grabs his dad's hand, and he leaves. And the orcs like can barely shoot arrows after them because they're so stun locked. They're like, what just happened? It's like if you're like, we're at like a company picnic, and then they were just like talking about the expense reports, and then like a ninja assassinated your boss
and took the expense reports.
He wanders the woods for 4 years, 4 whole years, and he becomes the friend. This is important. He becomes a very good friend of all living things, and he also becomes vegan, which is a funny detail that he doesn't like eat meat or any like things produced by animals anymore, which I like as a detail. 4 years. That last year, though, he's going through that creepy, scary zone that's near Doriath that got fucked up. There's like this... we have the girdle of Melian, and then you have like Melkor's influence, and in Venn diagram of evil, crazy shit that goes on.
There's a small zone that is creepy.
Yeah, there's a scary zone. And he's wandering the scary zone for a long time, and he's like going crazy and losing his mind and his hair, and then he stumbles into Doriath. Somehow he's able to go through the force field, the magical force field, but he is. It's actually like like a lot of this is prophesized because
some elf just called it.
Yeah, so that's why he's able to go in, because remember, the only hard magic is like if an elf says something's going to happen, it has to happen.
Those are the kind of hard magic systems I want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Books.
Vague, weird hard magic systems. But he talks
based on what people say.
Right. Yeah. That here he meets Luthien, and she's like singing, but he doesn't like, he can't like talk because he's so fucked up. And so she just like leaves, right? Because she's like, I'm just singing and I'm going home. And that's what she does. And he's like following her around. Because as soon as he sees her, he's like, everything else is on hold. Well, I don't know what I was doing before, but this woman is my whole life. Eventually, he catches up to her. He calls her Tenuviel, which means
Nightingale.
Nightingale.
Because of her voice is so beautiful.
And they fall in love, and there's this really sad thing where as soon as like Luthien looks at Beren, she like knows that they're doomed. It's literally the same exact thing. It always gets me. Like in Lord of the Rings, when Arwen and Aragorn fall in love, it's so sad. Here it happens, it's so sad too, but it's also nice. It's because it's real. In real life, you fall in love with somebody, and one of you is going to die first. It's sad, and it's especially sad. Or you notebook. That's true. You could notebook it. I'm sorry, you're right. You could just notebook it. I don't know why these guys didn't notebook it.
They have to go nursing home?
Right, yep. Or you could do like what's the time traveling mailbox? Is that
Doctor Who? So you didn't mean Doctor Who?
No, isn't Sleepless in Seattle or something? They send a letter back in time.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't
Time
remember.
Traveler's Wife or something? I don't know.
No, stop it.
I don't think Sleepless in
also
Seattle has time travel in
Well,
it.
it's also a police box, not a mailbox.
I don't know.
In Doctor Who, I mean, he doesn't have a mailbox.
Yeah, if you want to send a letter to the police, I am being robbed. Can you please come?
Oh my god. Okay. Anyway,
so we don't know. So we
right. We don't know. They fall in love. And then some loser bard. Like, it's literally, I don't know. This is like so perfect. Some jealous loser idiot. He's like, hey, Thingol, your hot daughter is. I don't know why, but like, I forgot that Thingol is her dad, and so I was like, he's like, but she's so beautiful, she can only be here with me. I was like, what is going on? But I remembered that she was his dad, but then I'm like, oh, he doesn't want her to marry some fucking schlub who was just in the scary zone. No way. So this guy rats them out to Thingol, and then he gives Baron a quest, and then I'll shut up. Danella, you can talk about this for some.
Yes. So Thingol was like, hey, my daughter ain't being with no mortal.
Yep.
And Baron's like, please, is there anything I can do? And Thingol's like, let me come up with something that's so impossible. It might as well be no. And he says like, hey, you could go get me a Silmaril from Morgoth's crown. And Baron is like, all right, guess that's what I'm doing. And he goes off on his quest.
Yeah, he's awesome, man.
Thingol tries to have Luthien not come with Baron, but she does eventually, or she follows him. Who goes with Baron? Because they like
he goes to Finrod. He goes because he has the ring, because Finrod and his dad were like tight because he saved him at the battle, and so he goes to Finrod. But he's also not allowed, because like that's also a secret elven thing. Like Finrod lives underground with like a bunch of weird elves.
Oh yeah, there's like a
and
whole other
also a secret, and
another
so, like,
hidden city, but it's underground.
So he's holding the ring up, walking through the forest, being like, "I am the son of Bray here. I have the ring." And like the book describes like the elves are like following him and leading him, but they all have like arrows drawn to kill him if they have to. But Danilo, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
There's a moment where Thingol is like, okay, so I can't kill you, but I can do something that is gonna get you killed. And Melian refers to like, you're just letting the Melian, if we forget, she's a Maiar. She's like not an elf, she's an angel.
And she's Thingol's wife.
Yeah. And she's like, you're letting the doom of Mandos like
kill him for you.
I don't understand how him killing is it because it's for a Silmaril, or
yeah, so you know what's funny? The sentence I was just reading, I'm like, should I read this out loud? This seems like important. I think exactly answers your question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And this is what Finrod says to Baron. It is plain that Thingol desires your death, but it seems that this doom goes beyond his purpose, and that the oath of Fëanor is again at work. For the Silmarils are cursed with an oath of hatred, and he that even names them in desire moves a great power from slumber. And the sons of Fëanor would lay all the elf kingdoms to ruin, rather than suffer any other than themselves to win or possess a Silmaril, for the oath drives them. So it's like, even if he got a Silmaril, the sons of Fëanor would like kill him or something like
Which
that.
is what that does happen almost, because Finrod says to Finrod, no, as soon as Baron shows up, he's like, because it's that sentence, he's like, oh shit. He's like, I made an oath, so I am gonna help you, but this is gonna like, I'm gonna lose my kingdom because of this, because it immediately splits. So Celegrim and Curufin are Fëanor's sons, and as soon as they hear about this, they're like, fuck you, man, we're leaving, and we're taking our contingent of
assholes.
crazy assholes with us. And he's like, okay, so Finrod like gives up the crown, and he gives it to some dude named Oladred who's there, and he's like, here, you can be the king
of our underground cave
right, of our sweet weird underground kingdom. And then they leave. There's 10 of them that leave. Here we are again. It's one more than 9, but 10 amount of people more than 8 go on a doomed quest to get some jewelry. It's happening again. It's always going to happen in the history of the Middle Earth.
But unlike the other one where most of them survive,
the opposite happens.
The opposite happens. So they're like, okay, we have no leads. So they go and and get captured by Sauron. Like, we're not just going to walk up to Angband. Maybe we can disguise ourselves as orcs or something. I don't know. But they get captured by Sauron.
But you gotta talk about how, though. They do that Battle of the Bands.
I was gonna say, it's for Felagund strove with Sauron in songs of power. And, but Sauron outsang them and captured them and threw them in a pit. And is this where Huan comes? Huan, the dog?
Well,
or is he Luthien's later?
She's Luthien's late, but this is when, because like Luthien stays behind, but then Luthien leaves, and then it meets Curufin and Celebrim, who are coming from Finrod to be like, hey, they're going after the Silmarils again, like, it's on, because it hasn't been on for a long time, but now it is. So they're going to tell Thingol that, and then they meet up with her, and then they capture her. Because she's like so beautiful. It's so fucked up. Yep. Just one quick thing before they get captured. I guess like elves can magically make you look like orcs. Like that's a magic power that they can do, or they can make you look like whatever. Like people are constantly getting disguised in this story, and
but this magic system is not. I don't understand. I don't know what's the power scaling in this world. They didn't have to read this book.
Glass to turn them into orcs. I don't get it.
They eat green glass to turn themselves into orcs, and they eat blue glass to make promises.
They turn into orcs, and the only reason they get captured is because apparently whenever the orcs have to walk by the Isle of Werewolves, they have to check in, and like they don't, and Sauron's like, "What? Hey, come here! What's going on?" Which is just very funny.
What's your number? What's your badge number?
Yeah. But yeah, so Luthien like gets captured, and that's where she meets the dog, Huan, because he's I don't remember which one, but he's Celegorm's dog or Curufin's dog. And he's like, he is a dog, but he does talk 3 times, but not 3 times in a row, but 3 times.
It's 3 times before his death, and that's very funny. You're like,
it is very funny.
When is the next time that this dog's gonna talk? So when Beren and his friends are like in with Sauron, doesn't Sauron like send some sort of monster werewolf down there? In like they're like all stuck in a pit, right?
Yeah. They're just like they keep seeing eyes like through the darkness, and then suddenly one of them gets eaten alive.
Well, yeah, one of them's gone, and then sort of they go one at a time. And Sauron's like, "Hey, if you don't tell me," he like wants to know where the underground. Hey, don't tell me what you're up to, and he wants to know where the underground kingdom is. And then every time they don't, they have the little monster eats one of them, and then it's just down to 2, and it's Finrod and Beren, right?
Yeah.
And Finrod like fights him off, the thing off, but then ultimately gets killed, right?
Yeah. Finrod manages to kill the werewolf, but then
and then great timing. After that, Luthien also sort of breaks free, and she like hears Beren crying in the pit, right?
She literally is Rapunzel. Like she grows her hair out super long, and then
that's right.
Makes a rope, and then climbs down from it, and then rides Huan to the Isle of Werewolves. Yeah, because you're right. Because Beren starts singing,
he's so
lamenting.
Sad about Finrod.
It's the Frodo. It's like the Sam Frodo singing, and then Sam hearing it at the other creepy tower.
Or Maedhros singing, and the other guy is that Fingon?
No, it's Finarfin or whatever. It is Fingon. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, so it's like the opposite with the guy. Because it's Fingon. Interesting.
So Beren's singing and Luthien answers, and he's like, "Oh, that's weird. I think I must be going crazy." But no, they're here, and they're here to fight Sauron. We get Sauron fight.
Yep.
And he gets beaten by a dog.
Yeah, Huan like how do you say it? Is it Huan?
Huan.
Okay. Huan like has a werewolf death match with Sauron.
Oh yeah.
Sauron's like, I know how to do this. I'm going to turn to werewolf. And Sauron like Huan like pins Sauron down, and Sauron, to try to escape, like shapeshifts into a bunch of different things really fast. He becomes like a snake, and then he's a wolf, and then he's another thing, and it is very cool. I also like, but ultimately they make like a deal and they let Sauron go or something.
Well, they're gonna like kill Sauron, and his ghost will go back to Morgoth.
Right.
And his ghost is a vampire, or like can assume the form of a vampire.
It's the thing where it takes each time it takes him power to like turn into a corporeal form, and so he's like, fine, I'm stuck in a corner, I'll ditch this corporeal form and then take time later to like rematerialize.
True.
So he turns into a vampire and flies to Angband.
I like the like what you would have to assume is like Sauron just moves like, okay, Huon is like the best wolf ever. He's not like that huge, but he's like the best, coolest wolf of all time.
The best
like,
boy of all time.
He's literally like, I'm not saying Dark Souls stole anything, but it's literally Sif from Dark Souls. And he like the assumption, like Sauron in his physical normal form can't deal with it, so he turns into a werewolf. Like, I just love that like he can't outswing Huon as his, because you would think he might be able to, like, I don't know, it's just a funny detail, like he has to turn into a wolf to like make it fair. I don't know, but yeah, anyway, it's all fine, and she sings a cool song, and Minas Tirith is back, baby. It's no longer the Isle of Werewolves.
Yep. Oh, it wasn't Fingon. Yeah, Fingon Felagund is his name.
Yeah.
He's just referred to as
first and last.
Felagund after. Yeah. He's Fingon for this whole time, and now all of a sudden he's Felagund, and it's the same person.
Sauron, the captives of the Isle of Werewolves return to Thingol, or return to Oladred, and they say like what is happening, and like that Telegram and Curufin are scumbags, and Oladred kicks them out. He's like, get the fuck out of here, Feanor's kids. And they're like, oh, whatever. So they're extra mad, and then Beren and Luthien are also on their way back, because they're like, we can't go to fucking Angband right now, we're get fucked up. And then they meet each other, Curufin and Curufin, Celegorm and Curufin. I'll never remember. They see them and try to run Beren down on his horse, and then Beren he jumps up. He's like a human being. He like jumps up, and then the book is like, and they call this the Beren leap, you know. It's like, okay, all right.
I want to see if I can find it here in the book. And then Beren sprang from before Celegorm, full upon seeing the speeding horse of Curufin that had passed him, and the leap of Beren is renowned among men and elves.
But he like jumps up and like full body tackles one of them off the horse.
Not only did he get a Silmaril from the Crown of Morgoth, he jumped really high one time.
He has a 12-foot vertical leap. But he like crossbodies this guy off the top rope, and then he pins him down and like takes off all of his armor and weapons, and he's like, these are mine now. And then Turin and Beren are like, get the hell out of here, we'll see you later. And then on their way back, Curufin turns around and like shoots an arrow, and he shoots 2 arrows. Huon grabs the first one, but then the other one hits Beren, but he's fine. He's with a magic elf, so he's fine.
Who can heal, yeah.
Right.
It's so funny that, like, even the idea of them getting a Silmaril, which is, like, impossible, just enrages the sons of Fëanor to the extent where they'll just kill random people.
I know, it's
just
crazy.
Saying they wanted a Silmaril.
Because that's the oath. It's fucked up.
And now is when Beren and Luthien get serious about getting their...
It's time to stop fucking around with werewolves and music.
And battle the bands with Sauron. So they... Luthien disguises Beren as a werewolf, and Luthien disguises herself as a little bat and hangs on werewolf Beren, and they fly to the gates of Angband.
I like...
with Huon.
It's specifically the werewolf that Huon had already killed and like reported to Sauron that like he killed. So like Sauron, it's like, because when they get there, the wolf protecting the gates is like, wait a second, you're supposed to be dead.
Yeah, because there's an even bigger, scarier werewolf. Guarding the gates of Angband, whose name is
Korkoroth.
Yeah, Karkaroth.
Yeah, Karkaroth. He's cool, man. He's like the Red Wolf of Radagon from Elden Ring.
Yeah,
just to put it in perspective for you.
Just to compare it to other dogs from software games. And Morgoth is like that giant in Dark Souls 3, kind of.
Yeah, he's kind of like Yorm.
Yeah.
And Baron's like Siegfried or whatever, the Onion Knight.
Yeah, we buried the lead on that one. Beren is wearing big Onion Knight armor this whole time.
Yeah, and he's really friendly. And unfortunately, he dies. So sad.
He just wants you to drink your soup.
He does. He just wants to make soup with you next to a weird slug monster.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, back to... Hey, shouts out to the 5 people who know what we're talking about there.
How do they get past Karkaroth? Did they
They put his ass to sleep.
Talk to him?
She puts his ass to sleep. Yeah, she's like sings a song and then he falls asleep. Classic.
Not the last time that happens, by the way.
No, yeah.
And so they sneak into Angband, and Luthien reveals herself in front of Morgoth, gets revealed, and Morgoth's like, "What are you doing here?" And Luthien's like, "Oh, you've captured me. Now you can do anything you want with me."
Yeah, that's really explicit. I don't think reading any of this you'd expect that to be so explicit, but no, it's Morgoth is pretty explicitly I'm gonna have sex with this person a lot. That is what I'm gonna do. It's really
and it distracts him enough where he gets off his throne and comes down, and Luthien's like, "JK," and casts the sleeping spell on him and everyone.
I like part of this plan. Just a fun detail I like is that Beren is still in wolf form, so he's sleeping. He just slinks into the cave and nobody notices because nobody cares. I just like that, and he's also falls asleep because of the spell, and then she has to wake him up and be like, "Oh, that's right, that's right.
It's time."
So they're all super asleep, and Beren is like, "This is so easy. I might as well take 3." And then he
3 of them.
His pocket knife breaks as he's trying to get the Silmaril out, and it cuts Morgoth's cheek. He doesn't wake up, but it's just a cool
And he starts stirring. So Beren's like, "Maybe I will just take one. All right, let's go."
But then as soon as they're walking up the stairs, they hear that Korkoroth is awake, which is not good.
And then they have a big fight with Korkoroth.
They do,
and
he tries to do the old show Elbereth Gilthonia. He tries to show the
but
vial.
It backfires because Karkaroth bites Beren's arm off, the arm that's holding the Silmaril.
Oh, it's important that Beren grabs a Silmaril and he's fine. That doesn't happen. That can't happen.
Because he has the only thing he wants, and he's with Luthien. That's the only thing he wants.
It's he doesn't get. Oh my god, it's awesome. And so he manages to hold it up, and then Karkaroth eats his fucking hand.
Eats his hand, and then it goes. This thing of untold goodness and beauty hits the tum-tum of the evil dog, and it hurts a lot. Yeah. And so it basically turns Karkaroth into an evil weather event where he just starts raging and running around and screaming all around in front of Angband
slaughtering
or whatever.
Anybody who's gets in the way.
Yeah, it's an issue, and then Luthien and Beren get out of there.
You know how?
On Huon.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
no, it's the Eagles, right?
Yes, it is the Eagles.
Fucking Eagles.
The Eagles show up, and they go to Thingol because they go back to Doriath, and now Thingol's like, "It seems you failed," and he's
this is great. I love this so
Here,
much.
Talk about it.
Thingol's like, "Where's my the Silmaril, Beren?" And Beren's like, "I'm holding it." And Thingol's like, "Where? I don't see it." And he raises the stump of his arm. He's like, "I'm holding it in the stomach of Karkaroth."
Yeah. They're like, and Thingol's like, "All right, that's awesome."
Beren, you're cool. You're okay.
There's a funny detail in there too where Beren raises his left hand first and there's nothing in it, and then he raises his stump hand. I just love that.
He was thinking about that joke the whole time on the way back. Just flying the Eagles. He's like, "Oh, I've got a really good one-liner for this."
And so they form a big hunting because he's Karkaroth is on a beeline towards fucking up the Doria. He's gonna get there, and he's super evil because he's eating the
crazy.
Silmarillion, and it hurts, but it's also made him super powerful.
There's I found a really cool picture of Karkaroth. I don't know if it's photograph of Karkaroth. I don't know. If you search Karkaroth, it's the one where it's the one where he has the green shit coming out of his mouth. He's breathing fire almost. Yeah.
That's awesome.
We'll put it in the notes.
Can we put a? Hang on, I'm gonna find
the
this
one where he looks like a raccoon.
Well, there's a couple that look really awful. I don't know if you have Discord open, but I just sent it to you. He looks awesome.
It's a little figurine.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That even takes you to a second cooler one.
Oh, that's cool. Holy oh, that's like the rest of that picture.
The hunting.
That's like the
I
battle.
didn't know that was a full
Holy
picture.
shit, we gotta put that in the fucking notes.
That looks really cool. It's called The Hunting of Karkaroth.
That is awesome. Well, look at that guy getting fucked up there.
Yeah, well, you see the one where Baron's like holding the Silmaril?
Yeah, that one's awesome too.
That's really cool.
That is so cool. You know what? That looks like Mistborn cover art. That is so cool.
Hey,
man.
he eats, it's not metal, but he does eat a Silmaril.
He does. That is true. They do this. They steal this. They get back. This hunting party goes out to kill Karkaroth, and Baron. He gets a big bite taken out of his chest, and he dies. And so Hewin kills Karkaroth, and Hewin also dies, unfortunately.
Yeah. And well, we didn't say the 3 times that Hewin got to speak. Yeah. The first time, he just gives Luthien some advice. There's no dialogue. The second time, it's a very long thing. It's just a long paragraph. From the shadow of death, you can no longer save Luthien, for by her love she is now And he just like has a whole speech, which is hilarious to think about.
Yeah, he's a dog. He's a fucking dog.
Right before he dies, he says farewell to Baron, and that is the 3 times that Hewin speaks. And the one time he has dialogue, it's a whole like Shakespearean paragraph about you can't deny your doom.
It's
very
a good
funny
line
coming from a dog.
Baron dies, and Luthien says, "I'll meet you in the halls of Mandos," because they can just do that. Like she just like visits that spirit plane because she's an elf, and she's like, She pitches the idea to Mandos of like, hey, how about just for the first time ever he doesn't die, and then
you know what? You only got to do it this once, and then it's cool.
Right, and then it's cool.
And Mandos is like, okay.
All right. Well, he's like, I don't know, I gotta talk to upper management. So he goes to Manwë, and he's like, Manwë, can I think it? Manwë's like, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Yes, do it. But she gives him 2 options. The one is that she can die, and then they can hang out here. Or wait, hang on, is that true? What is actually the? Oh no, it's to the first option is for her to just go to Valinor and like forget everything and like live the cool life. Or the second option is they both get revived, but they're both mortal and will just live out their mortal lives and then die. And that is obviously the option they choose. And once they get back, they say their goodbyes, and then they just like go into the woods and are never seen by anybody ever again.
Yep.
And that's Baron and Luthien.
Pretty cool. And they hunt down Karkaroth later, right? Like Baron.
Hewin kills Karkaroth.
That's right. And then Thingol gets the Silmaril and then has it.
He does have it.
Yep. Which becomes important later on. But
it does.
Then, Baron and Luthien stuck in the wander in the forest, being happy to the end of time, and no one ever finds them. No one knows what happened to them. No one knows when they died. No one knows where they died.
Yep.
Cool stuff.
It is cool stuff. What a beautiful tale. And what a beautiful end of the show!
Hey!
Wow! Look at that. We've been talking for a long time, and we did 5 chapters. This book is crazy. We'll hopefully finish up talking about the Silmarillion the next time, but we make no promises here on the Hardcover Hooligans podcast.
Yeah, we make no oaths, because then oaths,
of course not,
because then we're gonna go crazy and start killing people for no reason, and we can't do that.
It's just so much fun to lie. God, I'm so much fun to lie. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can email us at hardcoverhooligans at gmail.com, Instagram.
If they're Tolkien related, we will probably do the same thing you will do and Google it.
Yep, just Google it. Yeah, don't ask me. I don't know who. I don't remember which Halad or Halum died at the fucking Battle of Dick Suckerton, but what, you can just Google it, because I don't care. Danilo, do you have any closing thoughts about this section here? Sorry I talked forever. It's just I had that's
really fine. It's been, in podcast time, it's not been that long, but in real life time, it's been a little bit since we've talked about the Silmarillion, or I've thought about the Silmarillion. And it is one of those things, like, in retrospect, the more I revisit it, I think after reading it the first time, the more I enjoy it. It's like oddly beautiful in a lot of ways, it's like after you read it the first time and your head is like, oh, why am I after that, revisiting it, being like, oh, this is kind of cool, because you're like more familiar with it.
Right.
But
there
I think
is a story happening. It's just weird.
And Baron and Luthien, I think, is the sort of the high point of this whole deal, And you could, if you wanted to, just read that chapter. Like, you
Yeah,
don't
you
have
could.
to read the rest of the Silmarillion if you don't want to.
No. It really has nothing to do with the rest of it, other than he gets the Silmaril. And that really feels like something that, you know, they had to put in because it's, I don't know.
Someone's got to get a Silmaril.
Somebody's got to get it. All right. Well,
Yeah,
that is the end of the show,
that's all
everybody.
I got.
Thank you for listening, and as always, stay hard, folks.
Stay hard. Like a Silmaril.
Whoa! Nicely done.
Thanks.